Welcome to episode 189 of the Campus Comics Cast as we wait for the release of Deadpool vs. Wolverine next week and finally get to see Hugh Jackman in a comic-accurate yellow costume. Which leads to the question, what is the best Wolverine costume? I'm Scott Reed, and I am personally a fan of the brown and tan costume from the 80s. Mike Atchison of Mike's Comic Shop Roadshow, what's your favorite costume?
Well, I am a fan of the revamped yellow and blue costume, the one without a mask. And it was, made popular by Jim Lee in the 90s.
Shad Schubert of shadschubert.com, which is your favorite Wolverine costume?
Of course, the classic yellow and blue is, or golden blue, whatever you want to call it, is my favorite. But I do have a soft spot for that, the tan, the black and tan, blue and tan, whatever it is, one as well.
All right, cool. Well, in this episode, we're going to be covering the first 5 appearances of Wolverine. We're also going to be reviewing Volume 1 of Wrong Earth, and if time permits, have a little bit of trivia, hopefully a CLZ Shake. But before we get to that, one news item. I don't know if you heard, but Diamond has finally added an exclusive comic publisher to their distribution, and it is Distillery. So did either of you hear this news?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. They finally I've added someone as an exclusive instead of losing somebody to an exclusive agreement.
Yeah, I don't know if those 1 or 2 books a month that Distillery puts out is going to make much of a dent in what they've lost, but I was actually kind of surprised by this news. And then, of course, I get this news, and the very next day I get a message from Lunar Distribution that some of the books I'd pre-ordered had been canceled. Because I had Life #1 in as a pre-order, and nope, canceled. So I've got to go back and figure out how I'm going to pick those up if I still want to or not. So
now, wasn't there something else? Go ahead, Chad.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say,
Shad, go ahead.
Jeez.
I have read some of the Distillery books, and I am not overly impressed. I feel like they are being held on a pedestal, maybe that I'm putting them on of my own, and they're just not cutting it for me.
I would agree. It's like it's missing something. Maybe it's the vowels. I don't know.
Yeah, nothing I've personally read from Distillery has blown me away yet. I'm still waiting for that book, and I was going to try Life again. So, like I said, I have it on my pre-order list. Now I got to figure out if I still want to get it or not. So,
sometimes the hype outweighs the actuality. So, I thought, now I have not. I just caught a glimpse of this. Wasn't there something in the news recently that Random House purchased Boom? Is there something going on with that?
I had not heard that news. But
which could have some interesting ramifications on distribution.
Okay, so a quick internet search brings me to a story from 6 days ago. This is according to the Hollywood Reporter. Penguin Random House to acquire Boom Studios.
Wow.
So Penguin Random House is set to acquire Boom comic book and graphic novel publisher Boom Studios. And let's see, I want to be sure I give credit to the writer. Boris Kitt contributed to the report. It does not say if he is the story by, Ryan Gajewski, Gajewski. So apparently that is truth. Huh.
I hope that they can actually, I feel like Boom over the last even 6 months has really made even better and better strides to have really good titles.
Yes.
Consistent. And I hope that this acquisition doesn't affect that in a negative way at all.
I guess that means they'll also move alongside Marvel for distribution.
Right.
Interesting.
Okay. That is very, very interesting. So, and I'm sorry, total sidebar, but as I was on this page, it pulls up a trailer for The Penguin, And Clancy Brown is apparently in the Penguin TV show. And if you're not familiar with who Clancy Brown is,
Highlander.
Yeah, Highlander is what I know him for. You younger folks will know him as the voice of Mr. Krabs
Mr.
from
Krabs,
SpongeBob
yep.
from SpongeBob SquarePants.
You know what? I didn't know that.
Really? Yeah.
That's
Oh
great.
yeah.
No. Oh my gosh, that's great.
And
I know
Brown is
Clancy
also
Brown
my,
from this.
he's my
There was
celebrity
this weird show. Oh.
Go ahead.
There's this weird show on Sci-Fi that lasted like one season called Earth 2 that I know him from. That was like my introduction as a kid was Earth 2 for Clancy Brown.
Yeah, and he's my celebrity pick to play Darkseid in a movie. So.
Oh, all right.
Or
Awesome.
High Father, either way. So.
Anything would be better than that CGI only version.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Speaking of trailers, also we've had several trailers drop recently. I didn't know if any of you guys wanted to comment on them. We had Agatha All Along. We have the Watchmen episode 1 animated trailer, Captain America New World Order. We got Deadpool coming out next week. My only real comment is especially on the 2 Marvel ones. It's been a long time. It's going to be a long time still coming yet before we actually see this stuff. I think Agatha's in September. Captain America New World Order is next year. Yeah. But I think this lack of films over this period of time has helped because both of these trailers look really, really good. So I don't know what your guys' take on them is.
Mike, you want to go first?
No, I mean, I don't have much to say, so you might as well go.
Okay. Agatha, I felt it was cool. I'm gonna have to go back and watch WandaVision, of course, before, just in prep to be like, all right, what all are we talking about? But it's great. I'm glad that it's coming out September, running through to October. Looks like a great spooky little show, in a fun kind of family kind of way. And I mean, I love the cast is going to be great. I don't have any issues with that, and I don't exactly know what's happening. I guess that's really the only thing, but Aubrey Plaza's in it, so what am I going to say?
Well, of course, at the end, if I remember correctly, and again, I've only watched WandaVision once, so she lost her powers, and the beginning of that trailer, and I guess spoilers for people who don't like to talk about trailers, but it's basically like this CSI story with Catherine Hahn. She's investigating this murder, right? Well, unfortunately, that doesn't seem like it's going to last very long. And I thought, man, this looks really, really cool. And then they switch it over to this is like the world that she's gotten stuck into since she last lost her powers. So then she's going to go about trying to reclaim her powers.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
And I would have liked to have stuck with that original storyline because it looked
right, where she's really just good. Confused and doesn't know who she is, and just is a CSI detective or whatever now.
Yeah, so I was like, man, that looks really, really cool. And then so it kind of was a little bit of a letdown, but still overall, it looks pretty good. So I'm had to get over that hang up on that one. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, New World Order, on the other hand, that looks fantastic. I feel like we're in Winter Soldier Part 2. Like, it's definitely like government, like conspiracy, and just very edgy action drama. And I'm like, yeah, this is that thing that we did. You're right. The time that we spent apart is like, this is that thing that we loved, and they're gonna give it to us again in a different way. I love Harrison Ford in there. The comments about the mustache looking different. Yes. I thought it was a very well put together, and yeah, it's early because I think it's like February of next year, so we've got a lot of time before we see the movie, but looks good.
Yeah, it looks really, really good. I agree 100%. Thank you for the Winter Soldier comment on that, because that is still the best Marvel movie. But man, this one feels like it's got a chance to be up there because it's going to be a serious take on these characters for the most part, and it's like Sam Wilson proving that he's worthy to fill in for Steve Rogers. I'm excited for it. I was a little concerned because I'm still not 100% that Howard Mackey can carry a movie, but he looks good in the previews. So yeah, I'm getting pretty excited. So all right, anything else you guys want to add about any of them? Oh, and the Watchmen episode 1 looks really good. Looks like it's pulled straight from the comic books.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, which actually will make it the true preview or prequel to, or the true beginning to the Watchmen TV series that we already have.
Yes.
So
yeah.
So to tell you how behind I am, I didn't know about any of these, so I just wrote them down so I can watch them after we're done recording, because I definitely want to check them out. Yeah.
Yeah, they're good. I normally don't go out of my way, but I'm glad I did this time to see these trailers. So, all right, why don't we jump into our first five?
All right.
All right. So, first five, going to talk about Wolverine. Wolverine's first appearance, of course. Well, I guess I shouldn't say of course.
Of course.
His first appearance. He was first seen in Incredible Hulk 180, and then of course 181, and he leaves just a few pages into issue 182, and then the next time we see Mr. Wolverine is in Giant Size X-Men #1, and then X-Men 94. Of course, this character initially designed by John Romita Sr. And I don't know. So, Mike, what was your first introduction to Wolverine as a character?
Well, this was one that, Wolverine's just, he just kind of is set in your mind as one of those perpetual characters as long as I've been reading comics. Even though I didn't read a lot of Marvel comics, I know he was everywhere as far as being in the Marvel comics. I know that I had that first Wolverine miniseries, from 1982. But I say the first I really got to know him, believe it or not, in the first X-Men movie. It's kind of unusual for me to say that a movie made me familiar with the character, but that I really had to kind of land on that, even though I read that first miniseries.
Okay, Shad, same question. Do you remember your first introduction to the character?
Absolutely, it was the X-Men animated series in '92.
I knew for some reason you were going to say that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I love the X-Men cartoon. It was definitely one of my childhood things. Get home from school and watch X-Men on Fox or whatever it was on. So yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay. So I do not remember where I first came across Wolverine. It's probably just some random issue of X-Men somewhere between. I know it wasn't Giant Size X-Men #1, but somewhere between 94 and towards the end of the Byrne Claremont run. So somewhere in there, I'm going to assume was the first time I read a story about Wolverine. But what cemented this character in my mind as being a really, really great character, and Mike, you already mentioned this, was that Chris Claremont, Frank Miller 4-issue miniseries where they really start to give Wolverine a little bit of a backstory. So I have those original issues. I've got the trade in one or two different forms. So it's definitely probably my favorite Wolverine story. And again, it's kind of where I was really brought into this character. He gets that background of being like the Ronin, the ninja / samurai, all as part of his background from the time he spent in Japan. And you really get that, you start to see that the bloodthirsty version of Wolverine, which you don't see, kind of like what we're going to have in these first few appearances of the character.
Yeah, you really did point out that whole Ronin thing. I mean, that was a Frank Miller. He really loved Japanese culture, and it did give some depth to the character. And like I said, though, I know I read it. I know I had those comics back in the 80s, but yeah, but he's just like one of those characters that, if you name 10 characters from Marvel or DC that are the most prominent in all of comics, he'd have to be one of them.
And he's definitely one of the more popular ones, which is why the upcoming Deadpool movie is probably going to be, so big, yeah. And Hugh Jackman did a pretty good job of bringing this character to life. So
yeah, that's what might have seemed like a jump the shark moment for the Deadpool series of movies. It really is what will kind of give some buoyancy to it. I mean, it'll bring people back that might not come back for the same old having Hugh Jackman in there. Or as my wife says, Jack Human.
So, Shad, what are your initial thoughts on this original version of the character, I guess comparing it to what you saw in the X-Men animated series, if you want to do that type of comparison.
Yeah, absolutely. The costume I've always liked. I feel I didn't realize how it's one of those. I didn't realize how close we were from the very beginning, but also I'm not overly surprised by it. I mean, I think the biggest thing is around his mouth is a little bit different on the costume, but otherwise pretty darn close. Around his mouth reminds me a little bit more of. I was trying to find a visual of it, but I feel like there's a version of Catman that I remember that had kind of the similar kind of mask as he does, but I couldn't find a good picture of it. But yeah, I think the costume's close. He's not as gruff, not or at least it doesn't feel like he's portrayed as gruff as he was in the cartoon or even in the comics, probably not too far after this. And we don't get a snicked sound just yet. I was watching out for that. I was like, when does the snicked show up? We get a lot of automatopoeia, but we don't get that specific one just yet.
Mike, what about you? How does this version of the character line up with what you remember for the character?
Well, I mean, he's much more. I've done more modern reading of Wolverine than the old stuff. In fact, that's what's great about doing this first five. I'm getting the opportunity to read some things that I normally wouldn't necessarily look for. But I had never read the first appearances, never read those Hulk issues, never read even Giant Size X-Men #1. And what I can say the difference is that he's much more complex of a character now, and there's so much to him. You know, they nowadays, those first few appearances don't talk about his healing factor. I know that Roy Thomas, he was the editor of Hulk at the time, and his direction to Len Wein was pretty specific about, he wanted him to be Canadian, he wanted him to be ferocious and have an anger issue and be short. He was very specific about certain things, but a lot of his other personality traits didn't come out, or even like powers didn't come out until much later, I think, as far as I know, at least. Honestly, so he's got much more depth, I think, now.
Yeah. Well, I think that's true of pretty much every single comic book character. They don't immediately have the depth. It takes somebody coming along and just, building onto it. And sometimes what gets added in is good, and sometimes what gets added in is not so good. And in the case of Wolverine, for most of the character's history, what's been added into his backstory has been pretty solid, which is why he's continued to be a very popular character, I think. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Obviously for me, the violence level of the character is scaled back. That's probably more to do with the comic code than anything else. I've maybe had read this story once or twice before, and it's been a long time since I'd read these issues. But one of the things that Wolverine has always said is he's the best at what he does. Right? Well. Mm-hmm. So it's cracked me up whenever I read this. So in 181, he's kind of bouncing back and forth between Hulk and Wendigo. And he says, I'll just keep moving, if you please, because moving is the thing I do best. So apparently what he does best is move. On here, I thought it was fight all along. So
right.
I've been wrong. I've been wrong for so long. So.
And to be quite honest, I think Wendigo was more intimidating in that first appearance than.
100%.
I mean, I was going to mention earlier, you said that he reminded you of maybe some Catman costumes. He definitely has that feline look in the first costume designs. He's got the whiskers and all. Yeah.
Got the whiskers. Yeah, and then I call them the ear flaps, but they're not as pronounced. They become much larger as kind of his sideburns kind of grow out, and it changes the look of the character without the mask. Because we don't see him without the mask in the first 3 issues, right?
No.
Yeah, he's
all
mask. Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to.
Yeah, too busy moving.
Yeah. I'd like to know when he got that, that hairstyle. I mean, that really pronounced, like spiky hair. It's like almost his hair was mimicking the mask. just straight up on the sides.
I like to imagine that they're little cones, like his helmet is little. They're hollow in it, and his hair just gets stuck up in there, and so he takes it off. It's molded to it.
Oh, that's too good. But I do know a little bit about. I did just happen to research something about the style of his mask, which I'll get into at some point if you want, or I can get into it now.
Go ahead, do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just recently learned that first cover to Giant Size X-Men #1.
Mhm.
Well, not the first cover, the only cover to it, but you know what I mean. It was by Gil Kane, which the interiors are by Dave Cockrum. We all kind of know that. But Gil Kane mistakenly drew Wolverine's mask, not like what it was in the Hulk issues, but more like Batman's ears. It was more, out and up. And Dave Cockrum, when he's seen it, he goes, well, I like that much better. So he just followed suit on the interior art.
Huh.
And that's what stuck.
That's cool.
That's cool to know. I was not aware of that.
Yeah,
so.
I like the history like that. Yeah.
I do. I definitely like the more pronounced, wings look as well over the original design. Not to take anything away from, Romita's initial design of the character. It was a good starting point, but as many things go, they get better over time. So I'm sitting here flipping through Giant Size X-Men #1 to see if he ever takes off his mask at any point inside of the story. Now that we talk about it, I just don't remember it. So
yeah. I don't remember it.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to the first question, like your introduction to the character. And my oldest memory, and I'm probably at some point going to have to start reading through X-Men again and track this down. But there's the group of them, there's a lot of talk amongst the characters in the X-Men whenever Claremont was, on as a writer, and Claremont or Wolverine is sitting there and Storm's in the room, and Claremont or Wolverine talks about, being sure he's down scent and sneaking up behind a deer. And then Aurora Storm just is horrified because she automatically assumes that he's doing this to kill this deer. And then he goes, no, I just like to tap him on the nose just to scare him, and it's just like, that's so it's just like this contrast, of the character. And again, that's maybe, like it's definitely the earliest strong memory I have of the character. And that predates even that Wolverine limited series. So,
okay.
So, Mike, how closely does this version of the character match up with what you see in comics today? What do you feel like is the same? What do you feel like is different than what we have now?
Well, it's sort of like the previous question, how he evolved, but he's like I said, he's much more prominent. Like a lot of these characters in First Fives, a lot of them weren't intended or known. They didn't really count on them sticking around, like Deathstroke last time. But he's at the forefront of Marvel. He's an icon with Marvel. He's an icon with comics. What's the same? What's different? I mean, I think he's been pretty consistent with what Roy Thomas wanted him to be. They just kind of, grew from that. So anything that's different is just an add-on. I don't think there's much. Yeah, there's been revamps a little bit, but it's been pretty consistent. You just don't. There's never been a point where I've seen him to be unrecognizable.
Shad, you got anything to add on that?
Yeah, I would agree that the costumes have come and gone and changed a little bit, but I mean the fact that he's referred to as Weapon X, he's a weapon of the government to start out with. I mean, all of those characteristics are there from issue 1 and or 180, if you will. So I think that's all pretty cool. And yeah, like you said, it's grown from there, but the version we see is a pretty close. I mean, everybody can look at this first appearance on that last page of 180 and go, oh, that's Wolverine. I know exactly who that is. So I think that's pretty cool.
Well, obviously the violent tendencies of the character are scaled back in these earlier appearances to how they are now. He was much more of a company man, I feel like, in these issues. When the government told him to stand down, he complained about it a little bit, and then he left.
Right.
And then of course he doesn't smoke a single time in these first 5 appearances.
And never said bub.
And no, he never said bub, right? And yeah. But other than that, it's still a very recognizable character. So, okay, are there any moments you want to talk about in those first 5 issues? I already talked about my big one about the best he is at what he does, which is apparently moving. But
Yes.
I don't know, anything that stood out to you, Mike?
This is my favorite question because I make very specific notes about what stands out, and it's not always about the spotlighted character. First of all, the Hulk stories were, oh my gosh, they were such the standard Hulk smash puny humans fare. I mean, anyone that could be an ongoing Hulk reader, I got to give him credit because I don't know that I could read many in a row. One thing I mentioned earlier before we started recording was that I noticed in the letter column of Hulk 181, Mary Jo Duffy made one of her many column appearances, and she went on to be a writer and editor at Marvel Comics and some other, a little bit of DC, a little bit of some independents, but mostly Marvel. Yeah, I think she went by Jo Duffy more than Mary Jo Duffy. Again, this is in the mid 70s, and the dialogue of Crackajack Jackson is cringe-worthy in and of itself. I mean, I just couldn't hardly read it, but overall, the Giant Size X-Men, this is one of my favorite kind of stories, assembling the team. And I did not know any of these. I knew the familiar ones, like Nightcrawler, Storm, Wolverine, and Colossus, but I knew of Banshee and Sunfire and Thunderbird, but I really didn't know much about them. They were pretty free with their name calling each other some names you wouldn't hear and see in a comic these days. But overall, I know one other last comment is that I liked when Professor Xavier was telling the new members about, hey, they were like getting their new costumes, and Colossus is really impressed with it. And Xavier said, yeah, that was our friend Reed Richards who developed those or gave us those costumes for you. So that's one thing Marvel did great about that little cross continuity among their titles, just little tidbits like that.
You mentioned Mary Jo Duffy, and I have a reprint of the 180 and the 181 from, what year is this? 1986, just called The Incredible Hulk and Wolverine. And it has 180 and 181, but it also has a story that's reprinted from Marvel Treasury Edition number 26, and the scriptwriter on that issue is Mary Jo Duffy, with pencils by Tim Landgraf and inks by George Perez. But it's only like a 6-page story, so it's not a particularly long story. But that's interesting that she was a column writer, and then later goes on to write the character. So,
yeah, I love those little pieces of trivia where you run into. So I'm like, I've seen her name, because I always look at the letter columns. I don't necessarily read the letters, but I'll read the names and see if I recognize them. And I did recognize hers, and then I looked her up and found out how much she did.
Shad, any moments in the first 5 issues that you want to call any special attention to?
There was one little moment that I just really amused me for some reason, but in Hulk 181. When Marie makes the gas and Hulk and Wolverine are fighting, and then just mid-fight their bodies just drop to the ground. And the visualization in the 2 panels of like Wolverine's in the middle of like a backflip and then he just falls flat on his back. It just really tickled my fancy.
Well, it's not directly about the story, and I feel like I unfortunately closed this tab that I had open. But in 2014, the original art for the last page of Hulk 180, which is that, first cameo appearance, depending on who you talk about, and this is May 16th, 2014. That art page sold for $657,000.
Wow.
Now, well, that was 10 years ago. Can you imagine what that page would sell for now? So what's kind of cool about it is when this sold, it doesn't say how much, but it says a large portion was given to the Hero Initiative. And this is from
That's cool.
Bleeding Cool, an article written by Mark Seifert, so again, try to give credit where credit is due. But yeah, that was impressive. So it apparently matched the selling price of a 2012 sale of Todd McFarlane's Amazing Spider-Man 328, which was also a Hulk page. So, so yeah, original art pages though have climbed significantly in the last 10 years. So,
oh, I bet
they really have. I can't imagine getting into that, that part of the hobby. First of all, to me, I like to display things, and I just don't have enough room to display. And then you have to get into, a lot of people just have so much, they put them in the big books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I dipped my toes into it for a while. I got a few really, really cool pages, and now they're just too expensive. I mean, it's just I can't justify the expense anymore. So, all right, Shad, which one was your favorite issue of these first 5?
I'm a sucker for an origin and a first appearance of the like actual story of it. So Hulk 181. I'm not trying to ruffle feathers on what's the first appearance, 180 or 181, but I like the first story, I guess we could say.
I like to say first cameo appearance and first full appearance, just to ease any, because then that's completely accurate. 180 is the first cameo appearance, 181 is the first full appearance and cover, so you can look at it that way. So,
okay,
Mike, what's your favorite?
I'd have to say the Giant Size X-Men overall as a story.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that was, like I said, it's Xavier assembling a new team to find the old team that were presumably trapped on Krakoa, which they were. I didn't even know Krakoa was a living island until today when I read it. But
okay.
Yeah, I learned a lot, and it's just I love those kind of stories. And then you kind of got, by the end, you got some of them that were recruited that are leaving, and some stay, and all of the old ones left. And
except for Cyclops.
Except for Cyclops, yeah. So, yeah, that was I really enjoyed that by far the most. I got a kick a little bit about, Uncanny X-Men number 94, I just love the name of a bad guy like Count Nefaria. I mean, it's so on the nose with his cigarette holder and all that.
Mm-hmm. And his eye monocle.
Yeah.
He's an evil Monopoly guy.
Yeah. The only thing more on the nose is the villain that's name is Monocle.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you, Mike. Definitely, Giant Size X-Men number 1 is my favorite, and primarily because of the introduction of Nightcrawler, who I go back and forth on whether or not Nightcrawler or Kitty Pryde is my favorite X-Men. So I'm just a big fan of that issue. You even get to see, Colossus, which is a great character, introducing all those characters. Storm, such an awesome character, all right there in that Giant Size X-Men number 1. So
isn't that the truth though? I mean, Claremont he just had magic in that first issue. I mean, he had those characters between him and Cockrum, I guess, because he helped develop them. I don't know how much the collaboration was about who was going to be on the team, but yeah, Nightcrawler and Storm and Colossus, they're 3 of my favorite all-time X-Men, more so than Jean Grey, more so than Cyclops. I think Colossus probably is just a tad above the rest, but it's just, this was just magic to me.
All right, so big question, Mike, do you plan on seeking out more Wolverine stories at this point?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's just a kind of a no-brainer, I think. You're always, well, I say always, relatively always going to get good creators with him. He always comes with the company will invest in a character like that. He's fun to read. The last story I read involving him, or the most recent, is Old Man Logan by Mark Miller, and I forget the artist, but again, it wasn't super deep, but it was so much fun. I mean, that's the kind of stuff I like to read sometimes if you just don't want to, you're not in the mood for a Grant Morrison, like you got to be really knowing all your back matter. So yeah, I will definitely keep reading if the opportunity comes up where it's not going to involve a whole lot of, am I going to have to buy 6 titles to keep up with them?
Shad, what about you?
Mike said it best. Yeah, absolutely. I have always, since I've read comics, have read some iteration of Wolverine, kind of scattered throughout it, and I'll continue to do the same.
I feel like I have a stuck record on this question because my answer is always if I hear about a really, really good storyline involving this character, then I'm 100% going to seek it out. I'm not buying Wolverine month to month.
Right.
But I definitely enjoy a good Wolverine story. And that being said, if you're looking for good stories, obviously the Claremont Miller Wolverine 4-issue limited series is an excellent place to start.
Mm-hmm.
I also really, really enjoyed the 6-issue Kitty Pryde and Wolverine story, because that's where you end up with the Kitty Pryde iteration that becomes Shadowcat, where she gets her fighting skills. It comes out of that story. And then the Barry Windsor Smith Weapon X story, which is really just pretty to look at. That was spread out. It started in Marvel Comics Presents issue 72, and I think it ran 8 issues, but you can find that, compiled someplace. That's another really, really good story. There's lots of other ones out there, but those are 3. And then you've already mentioned Old Man Logan. So those are some that if you're interested in this character, those would be some great stories to read. So any closing thoughts on Wolverine?
No, that was a great testimonial you just gave there.
Yeah.
And of course, for the non-reader, right? The X-Men animated series, both 92 and 97, are actually pretty good. So
absolutely. And Deadpool Wolverine, go check that out. It's on brand. There
you go. Of course, we don't know at this point if it's any good or not. But
yeah, I can't tell you that part.
But I have a feeling, I have a suspicion it's going to be pretty good.
I think it's going to be pretty good, yeah.
Agreed.
All right. Moving on. Mike, you want to intro us to our next topic?
Sure. The Wrong Earth, Volume 1 is what we came up with recently as something to review, and it's kind of came out of our talks when we do our previews, pre-order episodes, because maybe it's me more than anyone, I seem to always want to talk about the Wrong Earth, every little series. And I remember Scott saying, it just seems like it's one continuing series. It probably would be 50 issues by now if it was one continuing series, but I do have them all pulled because I do intend after this to keep reading in chronological order as they came out. But we decided on Wrong Earth, Volume 1, and it's written by Tom Peyer and illustrated by Jamal Igle. Tom Peyer, I know him from Our Man and some other DC comics. And Jamal Igle, I know from everything from Green Lantern to Wrong Earth, but in a lot. What was the
Molly Danger?
Molly Danger,
yes. I love that you guys didn't. It still disappoints me so much.
Well, I like about 95% of what Jamal puts out, and this is right there at the top. Anyway, this volume was published in single issues from Ahoy Comics between 2018 and 2019, and I'll go ahead and just give a little bit of a blurb here. In this story, in this universe, there are 2 parallel Earths, Earth Alpha and Earth Omega. On Earth Alpha, we have the heroic and idealistic Dragonfly Man. Think Batman 66. Conversely, Earth Omega is a darker, grittier place where Dragonfly Man's counterpart, Dragonfly, is brutal and jaded. Think Batman the Dark Knight. Both heroes are forced to navigate and survive in each other's vastly different worlds. Dragonfly Man must adapt to the harsh and violent reality of Earth Omega, while Dragonfly struggles with the overly positive and more morally strict environment of Earth Alpha. So that's your little blurb in the front of it.
That's your series in a nutshell, right?
It basically is, yeah.
That basically tells you if that blurb doesn't make you interested in this story, then you don't need to read this story, right? But if that tickles you someplace, then this is something that makes it something you want to pick up. So
yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and say this right now. I had it in my notes for later on, but they need to do an Elseworlds and let this creative team do this with Batman 66 and Dark Knight, the Dark Knight. They need to do that. They need to do the
100%.
story.
Yes.
Yeah, I just would love to see, the Dark Knight up against the Joker with the painted mustache, and it would just be so great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Even if they had to pay Ahoy Comics and the creators for the right to kind of, adapt from that.
Yeah, I mean, it would just. That's why I said this creative team. It needs to be this creative team.
Oh, true.
To
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
fully
Right.
lean into it. So
There you go.
So how do you want to do this, Mike? How do you want to handle this?
I mean, we have 6 issues, so that's 2 apiece. So whoever
Okay.
wants to go first, I can.
Okay,
you like.
I'll go 1, and then Chad, you go 2,
I'll go 2.
Mike 3, and then we'll just wash, rinse, repeat for 4, 5, and 6.
Okay.
All right, so Wrong Earth number 1. The story begins on Earth Alpha with Dragonfly Man and his sidekick Stinger trapped by their arch nemesis Number 1 and his gang. While Number 1's henchmen are busy stealing artwork and replacing it with portraits of Number 1, the duo escape and handily overcome the gang, including Deuce, a Harley Quinn type villain, and Number 2 to Number 1. Meanwhile, on Earth Omega, Dragonfly fights off his Earth's version of Number 1's henchmen, only to find Number 1 stealing blood through a transfusion from a young man whom we learn is named Jordan/Hewitt, and one of Number 1's henchmen. However, one of his thugs distracts Dragonfly, and Number 1 escapes through an Alice in Wonderland type mirror to Earth Alpha. Simultaneously, the Earth Alpha Number 1 escapes through a similar mirror to Earth Omega, with Dragonfly Man hot on his heels. When the Earth Omega Number 1 appears on Earth Alpha and immediately runs into Stinger and stabs him in the stomach. Just as the not-so-evil Deuce tries to help Stinger, Dragonfly appears through the mirror, also having followed his enemy to the opposite Earth. Both Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man quickly learn that they are not in Kansas anymore. While Dragonfly is surprised to be congratulated by the police on Earth Alpha, Dragonfly Man is shot by crooked cops on Earth Omega, who unmask Dragonfly Man to discover the secret identity of Richard Fame, a wealthy Wall Street businessman. Can we have any more allegory in this description of issue 1? We've got Wizard of Oz. We've got Alice in Wonderland.
And if it sounds confusing, folks, you got to read the book. I mean, it's not as confusing as when you're trying to describe it, because you just it's this topsy-turviness about it that makes it fun, but it does kind of make it hard to describe.
It's one of your points later on. Apparently, even the writers and artists had trouble keeping track of the world changes.
Yeah. Yes.
So I won't, take any more away from that comment. Comments on issue 1.
I think it was a great start to it. There were a couple of I loved how tongue-in-cheek the Dragonfly Man world is, and just Dragonfly Man in general, and his stance against foul language as a sign of poor vocabulary.
I feel that's aimed at me.
Yeah, I was like, as someone who uses foul language on a minute-by-minute basis normally, it definitely made me giggle. And just every little bit of there was just a charm about this first issue in this whole series that I did not expect.
Yeah.
This leans into Batman, like the Batman 66 series, so much. Like absurd how Dragonfly Man escapes that first death trap. It's like, oh, I happened to spit out something and hit the mirror and broke a little piece, and then your own heat rays took care of the rest of the mirrors, and he has basically a bat repellent for every single situation.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Okay, so why do you think there is not an Earth Omega Deuce? Because every other character, there's a Earth Alpha and an Earth Omega, except for Deuce. Why do you?
I don't know. I hadn't even really thought of that. I know that. Well, we'll get into it, but
I mean, because it would be so easy. I mean, we have the the Batman Adventures Harley Quinn, and then we have the New 52 or Arkham, was it Arkham Knights, the video game version,
Right.
where it's
Hmm.
a much different version of Harley Quinn. I mean, it'd be pretty easy to do, but we just don't have, that character in the
Unless
Omega.
it's unless they didn't want to reveal everything all at once. Maybe it's in some later books.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. So, but and maybe that's another character that died, and we'll just learn about it later on, or comes back to life.
Yeah,
Or,
that's a good point. Yeah. Or maybe she remained a doctor and we just see her as a doctor. She's still a psychiatrist.
there we go. So, all right.
I just think this is the multiverse concept done the way it's supposed to be.
Mhm.
You've heard me complain before about it's not so much the overuse of the multiverse concept, it's the habit of the past decade or
Mhm.
so where they want to sort of vomit up all of these
Mhm.
different Earths all at once. And
Mhm.
that's not the way it's done. You
No.
should roll them out slowly so you have a chance to kind of learn the inhabitants. And that's the way they do it here. We
Right.
know that there's another Earth besides these two by the end of the 6-issue series,
Mhm.
but I think this really appeals to fans of pre-crisis continuity. You mentioned it already about Harley Quinn. Yeah, this one that we're shown is definitely the you know animated series Harley. Really got a lot of charm, and I like that Eigel and the colorist do such a great job with the atmosphere between the two Earths. You don't even need to see the dialogue to know the difference between Alpha and Omega, the bright versus the dark.
I had something I was going to add, and I have completely let it slip my mind. So maybe
Oops.
I'll think of it before Shad finishes the synopsis of issue 2.
All right. All right. Issue 2. On Earth Alpha, Dragonfly visits the injured Stinger in the hospital, struggling to come to terms that this Stinger is alive when the Earth Omega Stinger is long dead. On Omega, Dragonfly Man survives the shooting by the dirty cops because he had taken an anti-bullet antidote capsule as a precaution. He easily takes out the cops and secures them in the back of their own vehicle while he checks on the young man who was being drained of his blood by number 1, giving him a signal device seemingly tattooed to the palm of his hand. He grabs the magic mirror and takes the police car with the cops to his doppelganger's HQ, the Dragonfly's perch. Meanwhile, on the opposite Earth, Dragonfly has taken his version of the mirror to Dragonfly Man's bug house. He is contracted by the elite of this Earth, Fortune City Bank President Henry Noble and Fortune City Mayor Shankford, both of which he knows to be corrupt back on Earth Omega. Dragonfly refuses to help them solve the villain Triviak's clue to concentrate on finding the sociopath number 1. Back on Omega, Dragonfly Man locks up the dirty cops at his counterpart's headquarters. He sees his version of the mirror no longer works as the reader learns that Earth Omega's Stinger is dead. How weird is it that I can't pronounce the word reader as I'm reading?
Okay, I thought I was going to say, so I'm going to say it now before I forget.
Do it.
Mike, you were talking about the crossover stuff and all the multiverse and how
Yeah.
this was done right. Well, it's different here because instead of them teaming up, right, they're swapping spots.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
in all these modern iterations, we have like I'll go back to Avengers Forever, where in one issue you have 2,000 different versions of Mephisto show up, and then later on 2,000 different versions of Doctor Doom show up. They have their own Doom army and Mephisto army, and that's just way over the top. It's just like it's nonsense Dooms just to fill pages. But here we get two very defined characters, and they're not even teaming up, right? They're just swapping
Yeah.
spots. It's a much better take on a multiverse.
It's more meaningful. It really is.
100%. So. All right, things to say on issue 2.
I think it's the feelings that Dragonfly is having when he sees Stinger really is that he's really the other's version of his sidekick is really, you can really see it. It's very palpable. I mean, he's kind of a hardcore guy, but he still is like, it just takes him back. I like that signal device tattoo. It's more it's a little bit more sophisticated than Jimmy Olsen's watch.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys have already alluded to it, the ridiculousness of that anti-bullet antidote capsule, whatever. and my favorite part I think about this issue is each of the heroes, they are in their counterparts' headquarters and they're critiquing them. Dragonfly's like, he collects trophies, and Dragonfly Man is like, finds a bottle of vodka,
Yeah.
it's just so cool. Yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, it's definitely a discovery of both, and you can kind of see both of them starting to adapt to their new Earth that they're at a little bit. The Dragonfly is starting to, you see a little bit of softness with him getting to know Stinger a little bit. You see Dragonfly Man having to get a little bit sterner, a little bit harder, you kind of see where the story is going to develop, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like the death of Stinger in Earth Omega is what made Dragonfly how he is. So that now when he goes to this alternate Earth and the event that caused him to be who he has become didn't happen, it's almost like a near instantaneous change, because all of that has been released from him all of a sudden.
That's a good point.
You see the character crying, on one of the pages. So
that's a very good point.
It's really, and because we learned later what happens to his Stinger, so it's like he gets this big do-over. So,
right.
Okay, issue 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, The Wrong Earth, issue 3. On Earth Alpha, Deuce uses her charms to get her and the gang's criminal charges dismissed, and she takes control of the gang. Meanwhile, the bank president, and Mayor still struggle to solve Triviak's super easy clue, while Triviak and his gang hold up a high society trivia award ceremony. Dragonfly discovers the mutilated bodies of 4 people in a church, but the police and the bank president and mayor are more concerned with Triviak. Firefly solves this by shooting Triviak in the head so they can focus on the real work. On Omega, Dragonfly Man asks the confined cops how Stinger died on this Earth. They tell him with a smirk it was suicide. Devastated, Dragonfly Man wanders the streets of Earth Omega's Fortune City to find that he is feared or reviled everywhere he goes. The Alpha Number 1 is executed by the Omega Number 1's henchmen, and they use the signal device on Hewitt's palm to signal Dragonfly Man. Back on Alpha, Deuce stretches her boss muscles on her new gang, trying to get back the mirror that will return their Number 1 and Dragonfly Man. Just as they decide to break into the bug house, the Omega version of Number 1 appears with his straight blade razors on hand.
For the record, I would not have been able to answer this trivia question that had stumped the mayor and the bank president without the internet. Without the internet. Now, with
there was
internet,
a clue. I don't know. I think I would. There was a clue in where that award ceremony was at.
Yes. So here was the clue. What popular movie musical directed by John Huston is based on a comic strip by Harold Gray? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't think I would have. But when I seen the name of that being the name of the venue is Annie's, such and such, it just kind of triggered.
Yeah,
and I verified it, to be fair, but I did kind of think that was who it was or what it was.
Yeah, but I did not know that before just looking it up.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was a trivia contest happening at a venue named Annie's, they probably should have been able to figure that out. So
yeah, right.
Trivia. Again, it's a little on the nose, for the Earth Alpha, villains.
Yeah. Thoughts on it?
Yeah. Any other thing on issue
This one
3?
was pretty violent. Lots of killing, lots of death in this one, lots of blood. That's really only a note I had.
Yeah, how quickly they dispensed of the Earth Alpha Number 1.
I know I think that was the big one. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, my note on that was the story takes a real dark turn with the executions of both Alpha Number One and Triviak by
Triviak, yeah.
Dragonfly.
Mhm.
I mean, I did not expect. I thought he was going to be kind of like behave himself, but he still has some, some darkness.
Well, I mean, he understands that this world cannot handle this number, the Earth Omega number one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's like his priority is I've got to take out this Earth Omega number one, and you're asking me to take care of this nonsense guy. All right, I'm going to take care of this nonsense guy as quickly as I can so I can get
Right.
back to the real problem. So it's kind of one of those, like again, Dark Knight Returns, like let's kill the Joker so we have to worry about him doing this again.
Yeah. Triviak is clearly, the Riddler.
Riddler.
I'd say.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
An analog of him.
Mhm.
But did you, in the opening scene of this issue, there is the defensive attorney for Deuce,
Yep.
and his name is Guy Gobb. Do you know who he's a parody of? A real life attorney?
Well, I'll have to look at him here real fast. Guy Gobb. Not immediately off the top of my head.
And if I didn't watch, I'm sort of a news junkie, but if I hadn't watched the news over the past several years, I wouldn't have known this. But it's Ty Cobb, not the baseball player, but
Okay.
Ty Cobb was one of the White House attorneys. So back in the Trump White House.
Okay.
Yeah, so and he looks exactly like him. If you look up a photo of Ty Cobb, attorney, you're going to see Guy Gobb.
All right, issue 4.
Yeah.
Okay. On Alpha, Stinger sees footage of who he and the rest of the world thinks is Dragonfly Man, but is actually the Omega counterpart, brutally kill Triviak. Before he is healed, Stinger decides to find out what is going on, while Deuce stands up to the intruder number one and defeats him. Dragonfly confronts the Fortune City elite pair about their corruption when he finds out they are actually members of the Dastardly League in disguise and is captured. On Omega, Dragonfly Man disguises himself as a cartoony crook to infiltrate a criminal bar named the Razor and Kidney. He is ridiculed by the clientele but defended by the barmaid. Ultimately, he is attacked by and mops the floor with the criminals before answering the signal sent by the young man he saved earlier, which was Jordan. It's a trap, and he is apparently killed in an explosion. Returning to Alpha, Dragonfly is trapped by the Dastardly League in a giant piggy bank filling with pennies. The restrained Psycho number one is taken to Dragonfly Man's HQ by Deuce and her gang and are told to use the magic mirror to return to his crazy Earth. But before he does, Stinger arrives and uses a slingshot to break the mirror, ruining their chances of getting everyone back where they belong. Comments for 4.
I really like that twist that Stinger kind of ruined. He thought he was doing something right, but kind of ruins their chance of getting everything back to normal, and it really makes you go, all right, well, how are they really going to get out of this?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it also is a bit of a lead up to his demeanor, which we'll talk about next issue probably. Him making a blunder like that, he really beats himself up over it.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that Deuce, which is the silly version of Harley Quinn, takes out the hardened Earth Omega version of the Joker.
Yes, I have that note too.
She kicks him in the face so many times.
With her heels.
Yes. That's one of my favorite parts, was like her just kicking him in the face.
I think it's a little bit incredible that Stinger was well enough after being stabbed in the stomach by the bad number one, and he's still in the hospital, but he suits up and he goes into action. But I can forgive that. What I really I just love this more of this Batman 66 type action with the Dastardly League.
Yeah.
First of all, the name of them, and then these are names of characters that they're worthy of those reader/fan submitted character names in Dial H for Hero. You got Dr. Yo-Yo, Chef Escargot, which in my mind I kept saying Chef Boyardee, but Chef Escargot, Granny Oakley, Queen of Crime, the Toreador. I mean, it's all hilarious. That was just great.
Okay. Is it Natchez Malone? Is that Bruce Wayne's villain identity when he goes on? So we have that in this issue with bad guy going into the bar.
Yeah, ordering the lightest beer they have. he was undercover, but he just couldn't go that far to get a whiskey or something. He got him a Michelob Ultra. Oh, that's funny. But you know what though? He had that. He still kicked every villain's butt in the bar. Yes. So he's not
what's so crazy about it. Okay. These are the only issues of this I've read. I'm making a prediction now that we're going to find out that number 2 is actually the first person to cross over between these two worlds, and that number 2, Deuce, right, is actually from Earth Omega, living on Earth Alpha. That's my prediction.
Oh.
Okay. I'm probably wrong, but it just came to me as I was, flipping through these pages again.
That'd be interesting, yeah.
She knows how clean cut they are, and so she knows how to easily manipulate everybody there. So
right. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, Chad, Wrong Earth 5.
Wrong Earth 5. On Earth Omega, expecting trouble, Dragonfly Man survived the explosion by using his own devised explosion repellent beforehand. He bonds with the former reluctant number 1 henchman who was abused. On Alpha, Dragonfly blasts his way out of the piggy bank trap and doesn't even bother fighting the Dastardly League, much to their offense. At the Bug House, Stinger tries to reassemble the mirror that he destroyed. Before he could test it, number 1 of Earth Omega jumps into it and is destroyed because it is fractured. Dragonfly is amused at how Dragonfly Man labeled all of his controls on the Dragonmobile as he heads to the Bug House. On 1 Omega, Jordan tells Dragonfly Man how he got involved with Earth Omega number 1 and what happened to the Earth Alpha number 1. Back on Alpha, after the bad number 1 is destroyed, Stinger shows signs of his counterpart's suicidal tendencies and self-loathing. Dragonfly convinces Stinger that he is Dragonfly Man and did not kill Triviak, that it was an illusion and he is under a secret witness protection. On Earth Omega, mistake, it says Earth Alpha in the book, Dragonfly Man reveals his secret identity and asks Jordan to become the Earth's new Stinger.
Sorry, Chad. I had a couple of words in there that I misspelled. One instead of on Omega.
Gotcha. Okay. Naturally, I wanted to go to on, and then I was like, maybe I'm going to be wrong. So I just kept going.
Well, you got Omega. You got all these number 1s throughout, and it's
100%.
Writing this was tough.
Well, and I didn't catch it on the proofread either, so
it's.
I don't really think I have any comments on issue 5. It's just kind of more of the same.
Number 1 gets kicked in the face again by Deuce. I just want to point that out. And the way that he is torn apart by that mirror is just bloody disgusting and amazing.
Feel it.
I love it.
Yeah. You could just almost feel it. That's Eigel. That's all Jemai Eigel right there. I just love that. I mean, my notes are like, okay, the only thing more ridiculous than the bullet antidote is the explosion repellent. That is not possible. You gotta love the piggy bank, and of course Dragonfly not even bothering to fight the League. He just is like, you guys aren't worth my time. I got better things to do. And I gotta relate to Dragonfly Man and his labels. I love my label maker. I've got a little label maker for my comics, and I will put on the plastic sleeve if it's a first appearance or whatever, or signed by or whoever. So I can see if I had what they call it, the Dragonmobile, I'd be labeling the buttons too.
Ejection seat, cigarette lighter.
Yeah. And they do kind of give a little bit of a hint or a foreshadowing for who is 1 Prime. They mentioned this one number 1 from Omega. he kind of, as he's dying, he's like, "One Prime, help me," or something like that. And the people that, I guess they heard him through the mirror, but they were like, "Well, who is One Prime?" And it had me thinking, "Well, who is One
Oh,
Prime?"
I didn't even notice that.
So it makes you wonder
Oh.
if each of these, characters have a Prime version of themselves. So, yeah.
I totally missed that.
Yeah, I did too.
Well, but it's like only apparently a certain small amount of them are aware.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, in Omega #1 is the one that before he jumped in, he was like, "You guys are kind of overlooking the whole thing here. You're really focused on getting people back, but aren't you wondering how many Earths there are?" He was it was interesting that he was thinking in a bigger way than the rest of the characters, as rough as he was.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay.
Issue 6.
Wrapping up with Wrong Earth #6. On Earth Omega, the #1 thugs are intercepted by Dragonfly Man and his new Stinger, Jordan, who is dubbed Stinger 2. Stinger 2 reveals he called the police about the cops held prisoner at the hideout. On Alpha, Stinger is ecstatic to believe Dragonfly is Dragonfly Man and not a killer. At the same time, on the other Earth, Dragonfly Man buys the cops' loyalty, but not his new sidekicks. He earned his loyalty. I guess it's actually Sheila. Oh no, he or she. Was that Deuce?
No, that was Jordan /
Oh right, yeah, yes,
Yeah.
he earned his loyalty. Yeah.
Yeah.
So questioning my own rendition here. So both Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man use the Shakespeare quote, "To do a great right, do a little wrong," to make their case. At a press conference on Earth Alpha, the Dastardly League attacks but is defeated, with Chef Escargot being deliberately killed in secret by Dragonfly's venom. Deuce is skeptical, but before she can investigate, Stinger comments on the recurring theme of the water being bad. Finally, on Earth Zeta, 1 year later, that Earth's #1 has performed miracles, and we are teased with his appearance in the next volume.
Okay, now they don't say this, but I am assuming that the Earth Zeta #1 is Richard Fame, who is Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man on Alpha and Omega. Is that what you take from that image?
Ooh, no, I didn't actually take that. I just took it was no.
Because he's got the white streak in his hair, I thought that was definitely #1 and not Richard Fame, because Richard Fame doesn't have the.
But I feel like, but he has the same appearance though, right?
Well, he's more. He's proper, and he's an inventor, and he's solved, climate change and cleaned up the water, which clearly is an issue on one of the other Earths. There's, the water's turned bad. They keep talking about that. So, but I never really connected that it was maybe Richard Fame.
A Batman White Knight situation, like where Joker is the perceived like savior of the town and Batman is the villain. Like maybe that's what Zeta's situation is.
Interesting. And here I thought Zeta was the last letter in the Greek alphabet. It's actually like the 7th.
Yeah,
Omega is the last
letter.
Right.
Yeah.
I
like the alliance between Dragonfly and Deuce. I know he kind of bought her off, but it's like she really wanted to be on his team anyway. I mean, she really is like Harley Quinn,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other comments on Wrong Earth? We ready to give it a grade? You got anything else you want to say about it?
I mean, my last comment about it is this was a real romp. It was somehow both ludicrous but spot on with the tropes of the multiverse continuities, and it just I guess I should line that up with my grade, but yeah. Should I give my grade?
Yeah, go ahead. Okay,
yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna give it an 8.5. Which, Scott, I don't have it pulled up here. I can't remember the.
That's a very fine plus.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a very fine plus. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Shad, last comments, grade.
If I'm being honest about this, I superhero books don't really interest me too much. And I didn't. The fact that this book kind of didn't take itself too seriously, and it hit the ground running with this. There's no backstory that anybody knows. It just kind of like you were placed into the story. And the little like just satire, the back and forth of the Batman 66 versus the Dark Knight kind of thing. I loved it. The art, the dialogue was perfect. I loved how it was simple but smart at the same time. I just really felt like the writer did a fantastic job of bouncing between like Silver Agey dialogue all the way to like current modern times comic dialogue. And I want to see what's next. I graded 8.0, and I can't wait to read volume 2.
I'm right there with both of you. I'm also going to give it an 8.5, very fine plus. I got to go I got to find this issue number 1. I've owned issue number 1 a half dozen times, and I keep selling it and keep selling it and keep selling it. And it's like, oh, now I got to go buy this thing back. So,
yes,
because it is definitely very solid. And I love Jamal Igle's artwork, so it's just all really, really good, and I'm interested to see where this goes. Mike, I think I'm with you. I'm gonna have to read all of these. Yeah. I did not get around to reading. Actually, I did. I guess I did read the backup stories in the back of the trade. So I did read all those little short ones, but even those were fun, just little 2 and 3 page. Stories. So there's a lot of good content here in this first volume, and I definitely want to pick up volume 2.
So issue count, just so you guys all know, the issue 4 of Dead Ringers comes out this month, which is the latest miniseries, and that puts the total to 23 issues for everything that's come out, which is not a bad time investment at all whatsoever.
No.
Considering we've already read what?
6 of them, yeah.
Yeah, 6 plus however the backstories, wherever they were at originally. So
yeah. 1/4 through it, and there were some other notable creators that participated in these crossovers or these spin-offs or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, do we have time for some trivia? You guys want to do some trivia?
Oh, there's always time for trivia.
Chad, you want to put us on the spot?
Absolutely. I'm ready.
All right.
I'm locked and loaded for our new page of trivia.
And if all the questions are about Wolverine and Wrong Earth, we're gonna lose. We're gonna lose every single listener that we have. All 5 of them.
We're gonna lose both of them.
I think we're safe this time.
Okay, good. All right, good deal. So,
all right. Question number 1.
All right.
Which villain is the uncle of Miles Morales?
I know, Mike, but I'll give you the first shot on this one.
I do not know.
That should be the Prowler.
That is the Prowler. You are correct.
Okay.
All right. Question number 2. What is the name of the devil that Al Simmons makes a deal with to become Spawn?
Oh, gosh. And it's not been that long since I read issue 1 of Spawn.
Me and you and Dan read that.
Yeah.
About 2 years, 4 years ago. Yeah, it's been.
Yeah. Oh my goodness gracious! I don't know. So I'm gonna just throw out a devil name unless you think you might remember, Mike.
I mean, all I could do is guess as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go with Beelzebub.
All right. I'm gonna butcher this name. It's not Beelzebub.
Okay.
It is Malebolgia, which just sounds like a male bulge.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Is that a real name of a devil or no?
I don't recall that.
I don't remember that one being in the list that I was familiar with.
Yeah, I was going through some demon names in my head too, like Asmodal or whatever.
Right. Yeah. All right. Question 3. That one was a strike on everyone. Even me for the way that I pronounced it.
Okay, before you go on, the name Malebolgia is derived from a term in Dante's Inferno used to describe Malebulge. So there you go.
Okay. So Malebolgia, that's how you sound it. All right. I like that. Question 3. Name the original 3 founding members of the Teen Titans.
I'm going to defer to you on this one, Mike. But let me tell you. So I know it's going to be Robin for sure.
Okay.
Okay. On this, and again, Mike's gonna give the final answer on this one. So we've got Robin. Man, are we gonna go? I mean, I want to say Wonder Girl and Superboy because Flash shows up later and Beast Boy shows up later. Okay, what or it could be Speedy.
Nope.
Okay, well then I'm glad you're gonna take care of me on this one. So
It's Kid Flash.
no, Kid Flash shows up later.
It's Speedy that shows up later. Oh,
Okay.
It's Aqualad then. Yeah.
Or no, well, okay, I may be wrong. You do
Yeah.
what you want. You answer
Shoot.
how you want.
Now
to.
you got me thrown off here.
Okay.
God, dog. I've got the first appearance of them.
Mike, what were you going to say before Scott?
I was going to say Robin, Wonder Girl, and Kid Flash is what I was going to say.
That was your okay. And
but it may be Aqualad,
now that Scott's in your head, what is it?
I guess I was going to say Aqualad.
Aqualad instead of
Wonder
Kid
Girl.
Flash.
Yeah.
All right. There is no Wonder Girl in this, but those other three would have been correct. It is Kid Flash,
Wonder Girl's
Robin, and
not in?
Aqualad.
Oh,
Wow.
you're kidding me. That's.
I take the blame on that one, Mike. That's my fault. You would have got that if I had to put bad thoughts into your brain.
I don't think so.
Bad thoughts.
I can tell you who the villain was in that first appearance. It was a guy named Mr. Twister.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known.
But I know that Speedy didn't even join until the actual title kicked off, and doggone it. Okay, go ahead, Shed.
All right. This one is an indie book. So,
okay.
What is the home planet of Omni-Man from the comic Invincible?
Oh my gosh! I've read it, I've watched it, and I can't remember.
I wouldn't have gotten this one either. No.
I think if I had multiple choice, I know I could get it, but off the top of my head, I don't remember.
All right.
Neither do I.
I don't know if I could make up enough alien planets to give you a nice multiple choice. The answer would have been Viltrum.
Oh well, no, I don't know that I would have gotten it then. That's not what I was thinking. So okay, man, sorry.
That's a rough one. Yeah,
we're doing terrible here. So
all right,
our true colors are coming through.
Yeah.
Number 5. Which of the following characters was not in the Marines? Was it Spawn, Moon Knight, Punisher, or Nick Fury? Which one was not in the Marines, like the actual Marine military?
Yes. Okay, I'm pretty sure the Punisher, Frank Castle, was a Marine.
Okay.
Nick Fury.
He was in the Howling. Were Commandos Marines?
Were they Marines or not? Or was he Army? So I'm leaning towards either Moon Knight or Nick Fury. Because the first one was Al Simmons. I'm pretty sure Al Simmons' Spawn was a Marine. So I'm leaning towards, and I just do not remember if Mark Spector was a Marine. I just remember him as he was a mercenary. He just started as a mercenary.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So my gut makes me want to say Moon Knight, but I have a feeling it's going to actually be Nick Fury. So what do you think, Mike?
Moon Knight. I support the Moon Knight.
All right, so we're going to go with Moon Knight then. Mark Spector, final answer.
You should have went with Nick Fury. He was in the Army.
He was in the Army. Okay, dang.
That's what I was afraid of, was that it was a technicality that
right.
Clearly Sergeant Fury was in the military.
Yeah.
That was a doggone.
All right. Well, we can't even get 50% on this one, Mike. So
we're gonna get kicked off our own show.
That's right. Because I think we're 1 for 5 now. So
that's right. All right. Question 6. Which superhero is from the planet Tamaran?
Oh,
that's
just Starfire.
Starfire. Thank you. Starfire. Yeah.
Starfire. Coriander. Yeah.
That is correct.
Okay.
All right, back on the board. We got 2 out of 6.
2 out of 6.
All right. The Mutant Research Center on Muir Island is located off the coast of which country?
Well, it should be Scotland, because Moira McTaggart is in charge. Or wait a minute, or would it be Ireland? because Banshee, Moira.
Banshee's
Okay,
Irish.
Irish. Okay, yeah. So you want to go with Ireland?
I would, yeah.
Okay, we're gonna go with Ireland.
Can I ask what is this from? Is this a
This
DC,
X-Men.
a Marvel?
This is
Oh,
this
it's
is
X
Yeah, it
Marvel.
had to be just
Yeah.
talking about mutants.
Yeah.
The Muir
And besides
Island.
Scotland's not. I mean, it's a country, but it's part of the UK. So
It was technically
Yeah.
Ireland. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Ireland's not. Northern Ireland is, but
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hate to tell you guys, but it was Scotland.
Was it Scotland?
Oh, that's it. Chad, you set us up.
Oh.
When Scott was like, I think it's Scotland, I was like, yeah, Scott's got it. And then he was like, but I think it's Ireland. No.
Well, I should have stuck with Moira instead of going with Banshee. Is what I should have done.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, man. We were in the
Yeah.
ballpark. Okay, how many? Okay, one more. Is
All
there
right,
one more?
One more. We got one more. This is
We can't
question
even
8.
get 50%. So, all right.
No. All right. Who took over writing The Amazing Spider-Man from Stan Lee on issue 101?
So you've already mentioned his name in this podcast once, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say Roy Thomas, right?
That we'll go with that.
That will get you 3 out
3
of
out of
8.
30%. Abysmal.
Oh,
right.
goodness.
But if there's enough listeners out there and they're hearing this, they're probably screaming at their phone
Good.
with the
Yeah,
answers.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know how it is.
And I want to mention now, we mentioned it before we started recording, but Eric from the Long Box Review let me know about a couple of trivia-related comic books that he bought along with this one because he liked hearing what we're talking about, and it's mainstream enough that makes it accessible. It's not too esoteric or difficult, and it's kind of what we like, despite the score we just got here.
Yeah.
But I ordered them myself, and so even when this book is over, I think we're about maybe a half or 2/3 through, we'll maybe have another trivia related comic book to do to continue this tradition.
And just as a reminder, this comes from the book Comic Book Trivia, published by Blood Moon Comics, and it's been a fun purchase. I'm glad we've been doing this. So despite our score in this one. All right, we're going to do a CLZ shake to wrap this thing up.
I believe so.
Unless you guys want to talk about something you've been reading recently, anybody want to drop anything, or are we getting close on time here? Because I think we're nearing the 2-hour mark, aren't we? About an hour and we're only about an hour and 20 minutes on the actual recording. Yeah. What do you guys want to do? You want to talk about something you've been reading, or you just want to go straight to CLZ?
I'm not really preprepared. I mean, I've got one or two series, but I'm not as prepared as I should be for a whole segment like that.
Well, we would just do like one thing. You got one.
Okay.
Thing?
All right. Yeah. I'll talk about Seven Sons.
There you go.
I have Seven Sons. Guess how many issues is in that series?
Would there be 7?
Yes. Good job. Why couldn't that be one of our trivia questions? So I can't remember the writer's name, but it's got Jay Lee art, and that's what attracted me to it when we were doing a previews / pre-orders, I think, a couple years ago. And that's how old it is. It came out in 2022, and I'm that far behind in my new comic reading. And I have to say that it was intriguing. It had a lot of religious connotation about how religion can kind of shape world governments. And these 7, I guess they're clones. It's not real clear, but you get the idea that they were clones, and one of the 7 had to be the savior, and the other ones were all killed before the actual last one that becomes the savior. But it's intriguing in a lot of ways, but it also misses the mark at the end, I think. I won't say don't read it, but I will say be prepared, because it's a little bit confounding. So yeah, that's one of the big series that I've read lately. There's a couple of other ones that I've read, and I honestly, independent comics, and like I said, I wasn't prepared. I'm trying to get caught up. I want to read Absolute Power, that DC miniseries.
DC.
The big event. I heard that my guy Ralph Dibny, the Elongated Man, makes his reappearance in this series, so it's on my nightstand because I just got the issue just last week, so I'm going to read it tonight, and I'll be able to tell you more about it next time.
Shad, you got a book you want to talk about that you've been reading?
Yeah, I will. Just a quick little. I've been reading the Hercules, the Dynamite series, and it's not over yet. I think the last couple issues are still trickling out. But it's been, if you like the Hercules movie, the Disney movie. Let me clarify. Then not the Rock one or the Kevin Sorbo TV series, but the Disney movie. This is just a great kind of chapter in that story of that character. So if you like that, it has definitely been a reflection of that same thing. And then I also read the Uncle Scrooge and the Infinity Dime, which is the first of the like weird Disney Marvel kind of crossover books that they've started to put out. And it is interesting. If you like Disney and you are also a fan of Marvel, you'll understand the whole, it becomes this multiverse Thanos type thing that gets a little wild and beyond any kind of like, oh yeah, this is totally a Disney thing. It crosses heavily over into Marvel. But I like that they're doing that because, as we talked about in the preview side of things, they've been doing these covers for over a year now, and it's nice to see them actually doing this Marvel-inspired Disney kind of stuff.
So I have continued to work on my volleyball comic book collection, and I actually discovered about 15 to 20 more comics today that I had to add to my list. I haven't even updated my list on the website. That's been so recent. But I did pick up the 6-issue series from Image called Mara. All right. And basically, I got it because they've got even the little volleyball here on the cover of the issue. And this came out in 2012, which is the same time where a couple of American women's teams won gold and silver at the London Olympics. So this is why I think volleyball is the sport that is mentioned in here and not basketball or football or because this is set in the future, some sci-fi game that was actually made up. It's written by Brian Wood with art duties from Ming Doyle and Jordi Belair. Volleyball is completely superficial to it. It could have actually been any sport. There's very little to do with the actual sport, and ultimately with the story is about this volleyball player who has superpowers, and she's been hiding them for a while. And at some point in a game, they come to fruition, and it's like a Superman level type of power where there's nobody else on the planet that has any powers. So, and then just how the world reacts to her, how she reacts to how the world is reacting to her. So it's an okay story. If it didn't have volleyball, it would be going in my sale pile. I would not be keeping this story, but it's not a difficult read. And they keep that little volleyball icon on the first 5 issues, and then when you get the last issue, it changes to this image of the world instead of a volleyball.
So is that the Brian Wood that was it 100 Bullets he did?
No, that's Brian Azzarello who did 100 Bullets.
Brian Wood sounds familiar.
He's not. Oh my gosh, I don't want to say what's popping into my head.
Yeah, I just
DMZ,
know he was DMZ.
Okay.
Briggs Land.
Yeah.
Yep.
X-Men. He did some work on Star Wars, Northlanders, the Massive.
Demo.
Yeah.
He's not a creator that I've read anything of, I don't think.
I think he has some, he has some well-known stories, but yeah, he's not one of the big.
DMZ is the one that I guess sticks out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now that Shad said it, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
All right. So let me unlock my phone here for the good old CLZ Shake.
Shake it up.
So we think we're going to get a regular title hey, there's something a little bit different. So, all right. So I have Universe X issue 0A. This is the Alex Ross alternate Earth story. This is actually a sequel to Earth X. right? So, and the reason why I have this series is because later in the series, and hopefully I'm remembering this correct, but Captain America gets hold of Rom's neutralizer. They don't call it Rom's neutralizer. It's just the neutralizer. They don't ever say Rom, but it basically that's why I have it in my collection, is for the Rom reference. So
Good enough.
There you go. Yeah. So it all comes for me. It all comes back to Rom. So, but it is a pretty cool story. So I think it was there were several different spin-offs with this series, just like there was with Earth X. So,
what do you have, Shad?
I have Disney. We'll just keep going with the Disney theme. Disney Villains Maleficent #4. Nothing special about number 4, except for it was the end of the series. It was a 4-issue, and I'm looking forward to seeing more from the writer artist on that book. Was Sue Lee, Soolee, and she had fantastic art, and she also, I love someone who does a little double duty, and the writing was pretty solid on that. I felt like I was truly like reading a sequel to the Sleeping Beauty. The art looked so comparable to that, but with a little bit of its own twist. She's doing some other stuff for Dynamite now. Looks like I don't know what whatever the cheetah character is that they have.
It's like Chitara or something like that.
Yeah, whatever that is. Chitara, the Thundercats book, and so we'll just call it that. But I have no interest in that whatsoever. But I'm interested to see what she does after that.
I think that they did one of those creator spotlights on Sue Lee in the previews catalog once. And
okay.
I remember her from that, I think. Okay, shake away. Look at this. I get a Marvel comic for once.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So this is Savage She-Hulk. It is number 20 from June of 1981. And I haven't read it yet. I've purchased it. That's one of my favorite Marvel characters. And I can't tell you much more than that. It's just the title was To Stay the She-Hulk, and it was written. Ooh, it doesn't say here. Oh, no, it doesn't. Sorry. But yeah, I bought it.
What issue number was that?
Number 20.
Number 20. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
I
good.
think 25 was the last issue of that series. So.
Okay. Yeah, I think I bought a big run of them pretty cheaply at a shop, because I've always had number 1, but then I bought like 10 or 12 more at a decent price. So yeah, Jennifer Walters.
Gotcha.
All right, Shad, what do we have coming up on episode 190 of the Campus Comics Cast?
190. I believe we are going to be doing some lunar next phase pre-order previews, whatever you want to call it. That's what we'll be covering next.
And I guess we'll have to cover Diamond, because if we recommend anything distillery.
Yeah.
That's right. That's
All
right.
Mike, if somebody wanted to reach out to you besides podcasts at birdcomics.com, how would they do that?
I would recommend Mike at comicshoproadshow.com. And you could also get a hold of me at I'm on X as Mike Atchison 5, and I'm also on Blue Sky now. You can just look for Mike's Comic Shop Roadshow.
Shad?
I totally thought, Mike, you were going to give your phone number out for some reason. I don't know why, but I would have been wild. You can.
Oh God!
You could just accidentally just started rattling.
I know. Sometimes I get in a groove and I forget what I'm saying. Don't even realize it.
You can find me at shadschubert.com, SHAADSCHUBERT.com, for any of my upcoming music stuff, as well as upcoming shows for Shad and Thomas.
And I'm Scott Reed. You can find me at burgcomics.com, BURGcomics.com, with links to social media, eBay store, and soon an updated list of all of the volleyball comic books. And we'll be back soon with episode 190.
Did you send Chad the wrong Earth synopsis, Mike?
No, I did not. But I can send the.
I can do it right now. I mean, I have it. So.
Oh yeah, you can.
Are you okay with the changes I made, or?
I didn't even know what they were. I just pasted it into my Word document. I couldn't tell. I mean, unless you didn't do like a track changes document, so
no,
I just and it didn't look like it was much difference in length. So I knew I had at least one error in grammar, but I usually have a lot more than that. And you don't know it until you're actually reading it.
Yeah, Shad, how do you want me to send this to you?
It doesn't matter if you want to email it, if you want to put it in the chat, however.
Okay. What just tell me what's easiest for you?
I've got them all available. Let's go Messenger.
Messenger. All right. Okay. All right. Let me go to Facebook here then, and you can just copy and paste it out and put it wherever you want. So, oops. Okay. Or leave it there, I guess. I don't know. I'm not the boss of you.
Choose my own adventure.
Okay. Probably get banned from Facebook for sending too long your chat.
Do they do that?
There have been times in the past where, like, I guess somebody would have to, theoretically somebody would have to complain, I think. You know who Dave Taylor is?
I know the name, yeah, from the comic shop, yeah.
Yeah. He got put in Facebook prison for liking too many things once.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is that like the, do you not have a life prison? Like,
I don't know what that is. I mean, apparently he just was like going through this liking everything, and I guess they have some type of limit where if you like too many things too quickly, they think you're a robot. Yeah. So to slow you down, they, turn you off for like 24, 48 hours.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, I was just looking. I just seen it came up as a non-recognized word, like spell check. But on the wrong Earth number 3, where it says they use the signal device on Hewitt's palm. Is that his name? Hewitt?
Hewitt is his gang name.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine, because I couldn't remember, because he didn't really get named until later. And
yeah,
I called him
I
Jordan at some point. But,
I went back and added that in a couple of times. So I think up in the very first issue, where he's they're getting his blood transfused. They don't name him at that point, and you don't even know that he's one of the henchmen at that point.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I put Jordan / Hewitt.
Okay.
And I don't know. I guess these names are some foreign language. Is it French? I don't know how to count in French.
Yeah, like 6 is SICE or something.
Yeah, Sice. Yeah, I don't know. And then there was because I know it looked like almost like 14, but that's
well, that's Spanish.
14 in Spanish. Yeah. So
yeah.
I guess it almost has to be French. So
yeah. Okay.
But,
oh man.
But yeah, and I could be. I mean, I think that's what his. And I don't know what Hewitt means. I guess I could look it up. We have the internet. Hewitt.
If I try to stay off, if I start doing that, I never get done what I'm trying to do, because I'll just start like, oh, that's an interesting. How do you even pronounce that? And then I look at it and I'm like,
well, apparently it's Harvard University Information Technology is what Hewitt is. So,
go figure.
Yeah. And then I hit Hewitt's in French, and it takes me to fruits. Like, that's useless. How about Hewitt in French? There we go. 8. Okay, so it means 8 in French. So
L-I-B.
Yeah. YMR ducks.
Yeah, you knew that. You picked up on that. Except it was MR caterpillars.
Oh, okay. I was heard
MR
ducks.
I
knew it was ducks. So, CM Blank.
OSAR, CDBDIs.
That's what is that? I can't remember. I don't remember the whole thing. YMR ducks.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, why isn't adamantium in the English dictionary? It should be by now. Come on.
Not even in the Oxford unabridged.
Right. Well, I tell you what, you read these old stories and you're like, oh my gosh, they would never write anything like this now. I didn't get a chance to read Giant Size X-Men until this afternoon. When all the names are calling each other.